Welcome everyone. This video lecture is for the first unit in child development, and it will cover chapters 2, 3, and 4 of the textbook. Focuses on pregnancy and infant and theoretical foundations, genetics, and that area. So first and foremost, the due date for all the assignments is Saturday, August 6th at midnight, Mountain Standard Time. Once again, a reminder that iLearn automatically adjusts the due date given your time zone. So if it says August 7th at 1:59 a.m., then that's the due date, but everything is based off of midnight Mountain Time in Idaho. The assignments that are required to be in by this deadline is the collaborative quest, also called the discussion board. Keep in mind that your initial post is due on Wednesday, and then you're required to receive, in order to receive full points, you need to make 2 additional responses to peers. The discussion board for this unit, or for this first unit, is an introduction of yourself with a picture, so it doesn't really relate to the course as much. The observations in development, the Dear Abby letters, the reflective journal, and the reading quizzes on chapters 2, 3, and 4. You've already done chapter 1 in the previous week. Some helpful hints for this unit. First off, there is a section on genetics, and it's a difficult topic. Unless you're very science oriented, it's sometimes hard to understand completely. So bear with me, email me questions, ask me questions. Know that you don't need to have a great understanding of genetics to go further in the class. It's a basic understanding of it so that you can understand why children are the way they are as far as the nature part of the debate between nature and nurture. That there is some evidence that shows children's behaviors and personality comes from the nature, from genetics. The Dear Abby letter, just a reminder, has the minimum word requirement. The entire class is combined for this unit's discussion board. Also, regarding the collaborative quest, I would love it if you remember to post a picture of yourself or your family. It's nice to have a face to the name, so please consider doing that. Before I go into genetics, let me back up and go into iLearn and go into this unit. So you'll click on content, and then here is unit 1. And so let me change something real quick. Okay, I'm set as a student. Perfect. So unit 1, here is the start of it. Again, you start with the theories, and you will go through and answer the journal questions. I will remind you that some of the journal questions are back from week 1. When you go into chapter 1, introduction, and you notice this last week, that it starts the journal questions in this unit in the introduction week. So make sure that for the journal assignment that you go back and do that. So there's 2, and under chapter 3, which is heredity and environment, which focuses on genetics, there's a PowerPoint presentation that I've made to help you out with one of the journal questions, and I'll show you that presentation, but here it is. If you want to reference it later, it's right in the same chapter. And then you're also talking about the development, the prenatal development and birth, and then the reading check. So under here is Unit 1 activities. Let me go through these a little bit more in detail. So the collaborative quest, I'm asking you to post a little bit about yourself along with a picture, anything you want to share. What your major is, what your family's like, where you're living right now, what you do for fun, if you have a job. And so you're going to post it, add a picture please, and then again make 2 additional responses. That your initial post, your introduction post, is due on Wednesday. Then here's the Dear Abby letters with the directions for the minimum word count. So you're going to open up the file, and you can enter it right here. So, and then write your response, okay? That's the easiest way to do it. So you can, and then save the document and submit it. Now, keep in mind that, so your minimum word count is 2,200. That includes what's already here. So for down here, you'll see that there's already 1,100 words in this document. So to meet the requirement, you just need to type another 1,100. So the final word count, including all the letters, all the type, all the typing, is 2,200. You are required to answer 3 letters from each chapter. So 3 from chapter 2, 3 from chapter 3, and 3 from chapter 4, and watch to make sure that you fulfill that requirement. So for example, these are letters that parents would send in with concerns about their children, and you would use the course material to answer those questions, to give them advice, counsel, recommendations. All right, let's go back and we'll click on the observations and development. This one is having you watch 2 videos, and the first one is Jane Elliott. Jane Elliott did a study in a classroom many decades ago. I believe it was in the 50s, to study racism, stereotyping, judgment, attitudes, things like that in children. It's a great study and research that probably would not be allowed to happen anymore based on standards and regulations. So there's a great, as I said, a great video that you'll watch and then answer the following 4 questions. This ethical standards for research with children, it's not referred to this in the textbook, but I would, the textbook does refer to the IRB, which is a research board. Let me pull up the page number so you have that. Real quick here. Institutional Review Board, it will be on page 30. And what this review board does is, if you are ever doing a study that involves participants, you need to submit your outline of what you're going to do, your hypothesis, how you're involving your participants, how you're screening them, what you're doing with them. And you submit it to this review board, and they decide if it's ethical or not based on guidelines. So when it talks about the ethical standards for research, in the textbook, it doesn't refer directly to that, but use page 30 regarding the IRB. And that would be where you would reference and find an answer to this question. Then you're going to watch this other short video and answer the last question. So that's for the observations and development. This question regarding independent and dependent variables, there's also a similar question in the reflective journal, and I'll go more into detail on that in just a moment. All right, we'll go back to the activity. So here's the reflective journal, and you just open it up in Word, and you answer the questions right here. Keep in mind, as I mentioned, that's the first, I believe, 7 questions, maybe even the first 6 are in the first chapter 1 of the textbook, which is under the introduction week. So you may have to go back to the first week, the introduction, to find more resources and references to these, such as the video of, or the World Song video right here is in the first introduction week. So reference back to that. Let's see, let's go back. I will come back to the reflective journal. So for genetics, I'm going to go to this. So the reflective journal, question 11, let me pull that up real quick for you so you know what it is. It asks you to arrange the following from smallest to largest. And the textbook, unfortunately, does not do a very good job describing each of these in full detail. So this PowerPoint presentation will hopefully help you out with that. I'm going to go through each one a little bit more in detail from what the text gives us. We will begin with allele. This is the most basic part of the gene or the DNA. Basically, every gene has multiple alleles from each parent. Essentially, the alleles is based on the mother and the father's genes. So in this picture down below, it refers to eye color. So each parent has two alleles based on their eye color, their hair color, their height, different variations of genes. And so if a mother has blue eyes, she can carry two blue eye alleles. And the father has brown eyes, he can be a dominant brown allele and a recessive blue allele. Then each child gets one allele from each parent. So they could get the brown allele from the dad and have brown eyes, or it could get a blue allele from each parent and have blue eyes, which is what's demonstrated in this picture down below. So keep in mind, alleles are the small parts of the genes. So the next step is the gene. This is a very common term that we use for hair color, height, predisposition for weight. Your metabolism is a genetic, is a gene. We have thousands and thousands of genes, and as I said, these are made up of an allele from each parent. Then the DNA is what consists of the genes. So in this image here, you'll see that this whole thing is DNA, which is pretty synonymous also with a chromosome, but they've taken out a section of each gene. You'll see this ribbon here is a very popular symbol or image of DNA. It makes the proteins for the cells, and it's the heart of the cell. So the chromosome is made up of genes. Each individual has 46 chromosomes, unless there's a defect such as trisomy 21, which is Down syndrome, where there's three number 21 chromosomes. The chromosomes contains all the genes for that individual, and as I said, there's 46 of them, so 23 pairs of chromosomes. The genome. You probably have heard of the genome in reference to the Human Genome Project, which is a study that's being done by several universities to map the entire DNA of a human. Every single chromosome, and inside each chromosome, the DNA and each individual gene, mainly to see if we could pinpoint certain genes that then go on to determine the risk of breast cancer or other types of cancers, heart disease, learning disabilities, autism, things on that spectrum. And so this image, while very small, is just one small segment of the Human Genome Project. So the genome is a set of all the genes. The textbook on page 65 refers to it as the entire packet of instructions for the body of the person. Next, we're going to get into the parts of the cell. So the nucleus is where the DNA, the chromosomes, exist in each cell. Every cell in the body, a liver cell, a heart cell, a skin cell, has a nucleus with the chromosomes in it. Then the cell. So that's easy. It has the ability to procreate, to create more cells of a similar kind, to expand. For example, we regenerate all of our cells. Skin cells regenerate, liver cells. As they die off, our body creates more. Going over into the beginnings of life, a gamete is half of the chromosomes necessary for life, for human life. So in the male, the sperm is the gamete, and in the female, the egg is a gamete. As I said, it only contains 23 chromosomes, so it cannot sustain life on its own. As we will see, so in this image right here, when the sperm and egg implant, and I'm trying to think of the correct term, but when they meet, it's called a zygote, so they unite. This contains 46 chromosomes, once again, unless there's a problem in that union, and it is considered the start of human life as a zygote. So that is that PowerPoint presentation. Once again, is for the genetics question on question 11 on the journal. For question 17 and the reflective journal, let me pull that up. 17, it asks you characteristics of the following disorders. And my expectation to receive full points for this is to list characteristics of each of the disorders. So trisomy 21, common characteristics. Turner syndrome, characteristics of that, and so forth. So there's 7 listed. So what it should be like in your answer is a couple characteristics, and then list some more characteristics. Then notice that I also asked for 2 diseases where you can have prenatal testing done, and 2 disorders that you can detect if you are a carrier, meaning that you, before you even are pregnant, or your spouses, or you're planning on family, that you can be tested to see if you even carry the gene that would increase the likelihood of some of these disorders, such as Huntington's, sickle cell, anemia, and so that's what that question is referring to. Next, as I said, in the observations and development, I wanted to go over independent and dependent variables. An independent variable is what causes a change in the dependent variable. So the dependent variable is what you manipulate in a scientific study. Here's a great example. The time spent studying for a test changes or could cause a change in the test score. The hypothesis would be that you increase your time studying and then see an increase in your test score. It isn't possible that the test score causes a change in the time that you spent studying. So in this example, the test score is the independent variable. You cannot change the number that you receive on a test. That number is definitive based on your performance, your answers to the question. You can manipulate, you can change, you can alter the time spent studying. So in a scientific study that would examine this relationship, they would have, I would suggest, different groups, one group studying 4 hours, one group studying 2 hours, and one group studying 1 hour. And that variable would, the dependent variable, would be the one that changed. Each of those groups would then take the same test and you would compare the test scores. The test scores do not change. You cannot change them on your own. So think about this related to the observations and development question if you have further observations and development assignment. If you have further questions, give me an email. Shoot me an email and I can help you out with it and give you more examples. Alright, as I noted in the introduction video, I do look for ways to apply the course material in different areas of our life. The first one is the gospel. We are privileged to be at a university that we can incorporate gospel doctrine into our course. In this unit, you learn about the beginnings of gender selection, that some countries are allowing families, parents, to choose which gender they would like. I would support, or I do support, the family, a proclamation to the world that states that we are created male and female for a reason, that we are created in the image of God, male and female, and that our gender is something that we that Heavenly Father chooses for us. And if you have questions about that, what other countries are doing as far as gender selection, please ask me, especially if it relates to your testimony of gender identity. Next, as a parent or a family member, we learn in this unit that a lot of things go right to have a healthy baby, and unfortunately some things can go wrong, and you could have a child born with birth defects. While I don't encourage expecting parents to lose sleep over those possibilities, it is something to be aware of, something to look over and to be knowledgeable about, of the possibility of that, and know that it doesn't make that child any less of a child of God, that they will have an impact in the world no matter how long their life is. In a professional setting, some of you may pursue a career in genetic counseling. These are individuals who basically anytime an individual asks or is required to do genetic testing to see if they carry certain disorders, to see if their spouse does. They also are required to go through genetic counseling, meaning that we just don't give someone their test results saying that you are at an 80% chance of passing on this certain disorder to your children. Rather, we have them sit down with a genetic counselor and they go through the percentages, the statistics, the repercussions of having a child possibly born with that disorder. What does that mean long term? What's the care like? And so they do go through genetic counseling. And related to the church, I would also encourage that those individuals seek counseling within LDS Family Services and also counsel with the Lord regarding their family and procreation. Referring to a church calling, you most likely in your future or currently will work with individuals who have a disability, whether it's an elderly woman or man who has dementia, for example, or a young child who is born with Down syndrome. In any realm that we will be working with individuals with disabilities. And I encourage you to be knowledgeable of those and also be willing to reach out to them and understand more about their disorder so that you can better help them. Lastly, as a community member, just be mindful of women who are pregnant. Obviously, if you're living the word of wisdom, you're not going to be smoking around them, but do offer assistance to them in any way that you can. Lastly, I have just this great video by President Nelson that I'm going to have us watch.
Anyone who studies the workings of the human body has surely seen God moving in His majesty and power. Each eye has an autofocusing lens. Nerves and muscles control two eyes to make a single three-dimensional image. Each ear is connected to compact equipment designed to convert sound waves into audible tones. Your heart is an incredible pump. It has 4 delicate valves that open and close more than 100,000 times a day. Think of the body's defense system. It perceives pain. It generates antibodies. The body renews its own outdated cells and regulates the levels of its own vital ingredients. The many amazing attributes of your body attest to your own divine nature. The Apostle Paul described it as a temple of God. How could this be? Because your body is the temple for your spirit. And how you use your body affects your spirit. God is the Father of our spirits. We are part of His divine purpose. And when He created us physically, we were created in the image of God. Development of the spirit is of eternal consequence. When we truly know our divine nature, and we will control our appetites. We will focus our eyes on sights, our ears on sounds, and our minds on thoughts that are a credit to our physical creation as a temple of our Father in heaven. For these physical gifts, thanks be to God.
Okay, what I love about that, and hopefully you will have an experience as you study this unit, is understanding, gaining an understanding of the intricacies of the human body, starting from the very start of life with the zygote, in the formation of the embryo and the fetus, that everything needs to be organized in such a way to promote life. That if one gene isn't working right, or it doesn't connect as it properly should, that our heart may not pump correctly, or our eyesight may not be as it should. And it's a testimony to me of how much Heavenly Father loves us, that He has designed our bodies in such a way to work as He would desire us to, and that the body truly is a magnificent thing that we can use for good. And as President Nelson recommends, is that we be sure that we treat it as a temple, that it is the house of our spirit, and that we need to act as such. That is it for Unit 1. Again, everything is due Saturday, August 6th, so shoot me an email or anything if you have questions. Otherwise, good luck, everyone.